Cool. So I'm just going to dive right in. And I think that something that I've always admired about you is the fact that you are just so open and unapologetically yourself, which I think is something you need in order to be a like good creator and just someone who's out in the world, because so often people are like, they just kind of like tiptoe around what they want to say because they want approval from everyone else. But you being you and kind of always being this open book, did you know that you like, how did you come to terms with deciding to be that persona online and realizing that, okay, maybe I'm opening myself up to criticism?
It's definitely been a journey. We talked last time I was on the show, I think, a lot about the addiction part of my story. And I don't know if we're going to get into that today, but that did definitely play a role in how I present myself to the world and who I am. And that I spent a decade of drinking and using drugs to cover up who I was. I had to work so hard to maintain this facade of who I thought you wanted me to be and how I wanted you to perceive me. And it was just layer after layer after layer. And it was so hard to maintain. And that was a big thing that the drugs and the alcohol did for me. So when I got sober, I realized that, you know, I really had to peel those layers of the onion, so to speak. And I learned who I was because I had no idea when I got sober. And it's always changing. I'm a different person now than I was 6 years ago when I started my Instagram account. But I just kind of made a commitment to myself then to be authentic. And I think anybody who has been through a similar journey, and I think we've all been through periods where we try to be someone else, we try to assimilate to different groups, we try to put up a facade, and then we're able to be our authentic selves and be more genuine. It just feels like such a relief, you know? And so a lot of that was my sobriety. And when I started my Instagram account a couple years into sobriety, it was totally different back then. And I was still figuring out who I was and what my content was about. And I'm always growing and evolving that way. But I would say now, compared to even 2-3 years ago, and definitely the beginning, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me. And I think it comes from now 9.5 years of sobriety, getting really comfortable with who I am, age, life experience, being really confident in my life choices. Like, I don't care. There's nothing that anybody can say to me or say about me at this point that's going to, I mean, people can insult me for sure, but like, it just doesn't affect me. Like, it just doesn't bother me because this is who I am. Take it or leave it, you know? And definitely I've opened myself up to criticism, especially in recent years. But like, I don't know. I think it's all of those things combined.
But you know, yes, you have opened yourself up to criticism, but at the same time, I think the reason you have such a strong community is because you just say what you need to say, you know? Like, there's a lot of creators that I follow, and I can tell they're so scared that everything that they say is like, well, this is it for me, you know? And like, everything is a disclaimer because you're trying to not trigger someone, where like, someone's gonna get triggered, you know? Whatever you say, it's just gonna offend someone. Like, I had a video go viral. This is just like the most ridiculous thing. And the girl who was on was teaching people how to not use filler words, and people went off on the comments, like a subset, being like, this is very unfeminist of you. And I'm like, to learn how to cut filler words out, really? That's unfeminist? I mean, it was insane. So I feel like people are always going to find a reason to nitpick.
Yes, I was just going to say, I think the culture now, and we were just talking about this before we started recording, is to nitpick and to be in the comments and to get people riled up in the comments and have an opinion and voice your opinion about whatever it is, how someone talks, how somebody looks, how somebody is choosing to live their life, who they're in a relationship with, all of these things. So you're going to get criticized no matter what. I think Lauren Bostic said, like, you need to stop creating for your haters, because they're going to hate no matter what. You just can't, like, this is something my husband talks about too. People are going to have opinions about you. They're going to hate you. And that was one thing that I definitely did the first few years of being a content creator. I really wanted everybody to like me. And I remember I saw years ago, there was a Reddit about influencers, and I saw my name and I was like, oh my God, here we go. And I read it, and there were a few comments, and everyone was like, yeah, she seems pretty like normal and cool. And I was like, great, everybody likes me. And then then a few years went by. Now I don't read them, but I see them. There's all different threads and people talking shit and screenshotting my stories and talking about my appearance and what I'm talking about on my podcast. And I'm like, amazing. People are talking. I'm reaching more people. Like, if everybody loves you, like, you're doing something wrong. I'm sorry.
And I think it's also just a matter of scale, right?
Yes.
Because I think the more people you reach, you're just not gonna be for everyone. Like, no matter how hard you try, someone's gonna hate you, you know? And it's like a scale thing. Like, I've seen it even with our business, like Array, you know, like, initially it's so easy, you're in like a little bubble, and then like the bigger you get, the more customer complaints or like people being mean about the brand, and like you just kind of have to be like, it's okay, it means good things, like we're flourishing out here.
Chuck always tells me, I can't remember who told him this, but back in the beginning of his career, when he was starting to have a lot of success, and same thing, scale, a lot of people were starting to see his shows and he was getting a lot of criticism. And some person, I can't remember who, some like legend in the entertainment industry said, Chuck, if half of them love you and half of them hate you, you're a star. Because it's like, that's the reality of it. And you just, I mean, on the one hand, it's like, you know, opening yourself up to criticism. I don't want it, but that's the reality of where we are today. And so yes, I could play it really safe and try to be this person that, you know, fits into this box that everybody
says nothing at all at the end of the day.
Yes. And that's even something more recently. Like, I was just telling you, I'm having so much fun on TikTok, just spilling all the shit that I don't share on Instagram about surgeries and like beauty things and, you know, tabloid stories and whatever. Like, I just don't care. And just even in the last few weeks, like, it's grown the account so much because the people who are into that are going to stay, and the rest of the people aren't for me. And that's okay. Like, just like you were saying, like, you can't please everybody.
So speaking of, like, you know, you've always been like very open. It's okay. So when I look at your content, I think it's really interesting, right? Because you have all your surgery stuff, you have your wellness stuff, and then you like share tidbits of what it's like as an insider within Hollywood, but also being an outsider, because you never tried to leverage your husband's success to go into that world. Why is that? Like, was it never of interest to you?
I think our worlds are so different. Like, yes, he's Hollywood, and I feel like by marriage, I'm kind of Hollywood adjacent. But I don't think I even thought about it in the beginning, because what I was doing when I started my account was I was doing BBG, you know, it was a workout account.
Oh, and I did that once upon a time too.
Yes. Death. Like, I don't even know if I tried to do that today, I would die. But I was doing recipes and workouts, and I always, I don't know, I think I have a respect for what he does, and I never wanted to try to like piggyback on that to get myself somewhere. And, you know, I think it's so funny because so many people still don't know that I'm even married to him, because I don't share about him on social media. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, people don't know like my life and my lifestyle for the most part, and that I'm married to him. And I think that's great. You know, I'm really proud of what I've done without tapping into his resources, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you should be proud. And since you share like so many bits and pieces about, like, for example, like, you're so into like surgery and all of that, and like, you know, we've talked about it and you've talked about it on other podcast episodes and stuff as well, that like so and so had this done potentially, but you're so open about it while also being in that world. Do you ever get hate for it when you're at places? Like, do people realize that you talk about this stuff? Like, do you kind of feel that ever?
I don't know. If they know, they definitely don't say anything about it. And I think the people that I've alleged have had things done are not people that I run into anyway. Like, you know, the younger, like young Hollywood kind of models. And I'm not trying to like out somebody.
No.
I understand that it's like a private decision. And I get the backlash. Like, you know, I'm just a regular person and I get so much backlash if I share about it. So I can't imagine being on a bigger stage and being open about that. So I definitely understand that. But yeah, if people see that content of mine, they don't talk to me about it. I feel like people are secretly like interested, but it's still so taboo and so like stigmatized, which is part of why I talk about it, because I'm like, this is the reality. Like, people are doing this, especially in a place like LA. It's so common getting plastic surgery. I'm sorry, like whether you agree with it or not, it's like getting a manicure here.
No, it's true. Like I even remember not being from here, and like when I was younger especially, it was like Botox was a big deal. And here it's like you come and it's like Botox is like it's literally quicker and
like
easier
Mickey
than
Mouse.
a manicure. No, like seriously, like nothing, you know. It's insane. And I don't know actually like what is better, you know, whereby should people just continue to like deny it or say nothing, or have transparency around it and influence other like really young girls to do the same? Like I don't know. I don't know where I sit on the fence anymore, because at one point I was like, I feel like everything should be disclosed. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, but does it change anything? Because instead of someone like feeling like, oh, like I need to hit this unrealistic beauty standard, maybe then they'd be begging their parents to, I don't know, like have them get whatever surgery, like a BBL or whatever is happening these days.
Yeah, that's something that I have thought about a lot and talked about a lot on my podcast with doctors and, you know, other people who have been open about procedures. And I see both sides of it. But I think as time has gone on, I actually do think that keeping it private can be beneficial. Like, I am just thinking of certain videos that I've done. I make my videos about what I've done being really open about my age. You know, this is what I'm doing at this age. Like, I'm a grown woman, and I just assume that my content is going to reach that target audience. But even like recently, I remember I did one video. I can't remember what I was talking about. And I saw some girl comment. She was like, oh my God, I need this so bad. And she was young. And I was like, no, you don't. So I think that if somebody who has tens of millions of fans and followers was like, you know what, I'm actually not all natural, I got like a ponytail facelift, you know, at 20. Well, what is that going to do? I mean, what's worse, like the unrealistic beauty standard, or being aware of this thing and how you can
still
change?
wanting
because
it,
even
yeah.
as like a 30-something, late 30-something year old woman, like I do know the slippery slope that it can be when you realize what's available. And it's like, well, okay, where do you stop? Like, especially if you start at a young age. I don't know. It's just, I don't think there's a right answer.
There isn't. But also I think that when it comes to procedures, and you tell me if you kind of have this mentality as well, I think that the right way to go about doing it isn't necessarily like, I need this to change this feeling that I have. Like, sure, you know, I think getting certain things done, it helps with your confidence. Like, I got my breast reduction surgery last year, and it was like the best thing that I've ever done for myself, right? Like, I have no back pain and I fit into clothes better and all of that, but it didn't change me on the inside. You know, I was who I was, and I think maybe it's because I waited to a certain age where I was like mentally developed and I already had a sense of self. Whereas I think that if you're in a place where maybe you're not fully confident or happy with yourself, and then you kind of go and seek that feeling from an external source through surgery, that could be a slippery slope. But you tell me what you think.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree. Like, I did my first thing at like 32, you know? And same thing. I had done so much work in sobriety, therapy, everything. I had done so much work on myself. I had no expectations that it was going to change anything. I didn't want to feel any different. I felt good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, so I think I was really honest about my motives. I think that's number one. What's your motive? Like, okay, you want to do it. Why? Because you want it to look better. Why? Like, really get as granular as you can. And yeah, I don't think that anybody, whether they're a teenager, I understand like certain situations where a teenager gets a rhinoplasty or something if they're really uncomfortable with their nose. But I mean, I just don't think that somebody so young can make that decision necessarily for the right reason. And you see kind of the road that they can go down. We see a lot of people in the public eye who start doing things really young, and then they're kind of unrecognizable and different people. And it's like, okay, you're 24. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Where does it end? And like, it's tricky. It's really tricky. And even with myself, like, I have to check myself all the time. And people always ask me like if I transferred my addiction from one thing to another, and I'm like, well, no, it's like a little bit different, but I understand where that question comes from. And yeah, it's like
I don't think you're doing anything more than what people do here. It's just you talk about it more, so it feels like maybe you're doing more, but you're actually not.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't want to get defensive, but yeah, and I talk about it like if I do a TikTok where I'm like, oh, I did this, this, and this. Well, it's like, oh my God. And I'm like, well, actually I did that over the course of 6 years. But because I talk about it and I make repeated videos and I talk about it in my podcast and my content, like I understand the perception that it's like, well, this is all you do.
Okay, you're gonna die, by the way. This is probably gonna be the biggest compliment ever.
Oh, amazing.
Nish thought you were 29.
Amazing.
So I was like, whatever she has done works, because Nish obviously knows nothing about your background. We just like hung out at Dear Media IRL, and he's like, yeah, she's so cool. Yeah, she's like 29,
really
right?
Cool,
and I'm like,
for a 29-year-old. Amazing.
Yeah,
and like that's the other thing, like I don't necessarily do things to look younger. I'm always just like, I want to look refreshed.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before. I got sober and I did not look refreshed. I looked really, really weathered, for lack of a better word. I mean, drinking, staying up for 3 days at a time constantly, doing coke every day, Adderall, smoking a pack a day, in the sun, sleeping in makeup,
I'm like tired listening
for
to
a decade, for a straight decade.
I drank 2 nights in a row in Mexico City, and I thought I was dying.
Oh my God, if I drank now, I would probably think that I was having a heart attack.
I thought I was dying when I woke up. I was like,
yeah. I can't even imagine. But yeah, it was like I literally came to at 28, and I was like, huh, like, who is this person? Once the fog cleared, I remember being at the Ritz Marina Del Rey with my boyfriend at the time, and we took a selfie, and I looked at it and I was like, unrecognizable, and I didn't even like set out to start doing things. I just remember I went to a doctor here and they were like, do you want to like throw some Botox there? Because I had so many like static lines, like not even from moving my face.
Stop.
Static. My forehead, I wish I still had that picture. Yeah, it was crazy.
What do you mean? It's like smoother than glass right now.
The Botox. Thank you. Yeah, it was crazy. I wish that I like deleted all my pictures from before, and now I'm like, God, I wish that I had all of that to go back. If only I had known that I was going to be making TikTok.
Truly.
Like
a little before and after would have crushed.
A little before and after would have been like so viral. But yeah, and like I have a doctor who is very honest with me, and like he'll be like, hey, if this is bothering you, we can take care of that, and I just kind of defer to them.
What have been the most I guess like significant things that you've done that you think have made you look refreshed?
It's really hard to pick one, because I feel like that's another thing. So many people hyper focus on one area, and really the face needs to be in balance. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make, whether it's with Botox, filler, whatever. I think definitely my lip lift. that definitely like balanced my face. I did fat transfer a few years ago. I feel like that helped because I just genetically had like a very flat face. And after I turned like 30, early 30s, when we start kind of losing some of that volume and the bone and everything starts changing around 32, it just looked kind of like heavier on the bottom and flatter in the middle, and it just kind of like aged me.
Where did you do it? Like around your cheeks or?
My cheeks, under eyes, temples, and that was in 2021.
Uh-huh.
So that helped to like volumize the face a little bit, which, you know, we associate volume with youth. So that was big. I think my doctor, Dr. Mascaro, always talks about like when you look at somebody, you see their eyes first. There's like an order in which they see things. So, you know, I cleaned up around the eyes a few years ago, and I think that made a difference. But it's like little tweaks over time where I think that's the way to do it, you know, instead of doing like
all of it at once.
Huge overhaul where it's like you have a face transplant. That's my strategy.
Do you feel like the fat transfer, I guess, like deterred your need to do like a ton of filler?
Yes, for sure. For sure. And it's a totally different look, in my opinion. I feel like, you know, a lot of people are speaking out about what filler can do, like how it can actually cause more complications, especially if you're putting it in your cheeks, your under eye area. It can really disrupt your lymph in that area. So a lot of people get puffiness and it just doesn't look natural. Whereas with the fat, and somebody might come for me, this might be incorrect, but I think it's more of like a structural thing where it's like it provides more structure, and then you can do a little pop of filler on top. But to get the look that you would get with fat transfer, you would need so much filler all over your face, and then it would go away in 6 months, but it never really goes away in the tissue, and it can like stretch the tissue. Like it's just not something that you want to do. It's not cost effective. It doesn't look good. Whereas with fat transfer, they can really, if you go to somebody good and you don't get like overfilled, it can really just provide that kind of structure, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Your one, I guess, lasted as well. Like how long does it typically last for?
I think it depends on the person. It depends on your metabolism, your lifestyle, but it's fat, you know? So for me, they took it from my stomach, just like a little tube. It's not like getting like lipo where they're in there, although I, you know, gave them permission to do that too if they wanted to. So I think it's technically supposed to be like semi-permanent. I'm doing quotes for everyone listening, where it should last around 10 or 15 years, and then just naturally, you know,
that's incredible though, because filler, you're just having to constantly go and get these fucking top ups,
and like, you never know what you're gonna get. Like it's just, yeah, it's crazy, and you're spending thousands of dollars. And I'm more about doing like permanent things, like whatever I can do, high maintenance things to be low maintenance. I was trying to think of how I describe it. High maintenance to be low maintenance. That's my approach to like everything. And fat transfer was a big example of that, because I'm like, great, I think I got half a syringe in each cheek of filler, like in the winter, maybe just like a little pop, and it's all about like shadows. Like that's another thing. You know, my doctor says like filler is more about shadows. It's not supposed to provide a lot of structure, so the fat can do the structure, and then the filler can do like the shadow contour stuff.
I swear, I feel like you were a plastic surgeon consultant in another lifetime.
I think
like
maybe in my next life, yes. People tell me that all the time.
It's insane. Like,
I think it's fascinating. That's the other thing. Yeah. Like, I'm truly fascinated by medicine. I thought I was going to go back to med school at one point, you know, in the last few years, like during the pandemic. My dad's a doctor. Like, I have always been just so fascinated in that whole world, like, and what they can do. And I have a lot of friends who are in the industry. One of my best friends is a aesthetic nurse practitioner. One of my other best friends is my surgeon, you know, and like, so I talk to them about this stuff all the time, and I love it.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell
it lights me up.
The next time I go to get something done, you know, I'm coming to you. Okay. I want to ask you about Fraxel, because I've heard you talk about it. What the hell is it?
Okay. I'm probably going to butcher this a little bit. Lasers. I kind of just defer to the people who are doing them to like explain what everything does. But Fraxel is a type of laser, and they have different kinds. So I'm not exactly sure on the different kinds, but I'll talk about what I did. So like a month ago, I did dual Fraxel. So it's 2 different types of lasers. One is for texture and one is for pigment. And I've done it before. I have done like 2 or 3 on my face, like once a year. And I just did my chest. And for me, it's just to like erase and maintain like no sun damage. So I love Fraxel. And then Clear and Brilliant, I don't know if you've done that. That's like a baby Fraxel. Yeah.
And so it just makes sure that you have no hyperpigmentation, just like clears up the skin.
Yes, but there are different, like, so there's IPL. IPL is also really good for sun damage. I think there's BBL, not to be confused with like the butt lift BBL, but BBL laser is good for sun damage. Moxie. So there's a lot. And I think that it really depends on the person's skin tone and what their concerns are. Like I did a TikTok about my sun damage before and after. That was another thing, like when I got sober, because I just never wore sunscreen, and I had sun damage all over my chest, and I did a few IPLs and then a Fraxel. And I shared about it on TikTok, and I said BBL by accident, and people were like, this is so wrong, now people are going to go get the wrong kind of laser. And I'm like, I hope that anybody listening or anybody who sees the videos, if you're going to go get laser, like defer to the person who's doing it to tell you what's best. But there are so many good options out there that don't require very much downtime, and they're like so effective.
And do you do it preventatively, or is it more so once you see things setting in?
I think you can do both, but I think it's more when you see things. Like it's very expensive. So I think like my strategy again was like start young instead of getting to the point where I'm like 45 and all of a sudden I have all this sun damage everywhere, and it's like there's only so much that you can do. I feel like the more that I can stay on top of it and maintain, the better. So when I started seeing like some sun damage coming up, that's when I started doing it.
Okay. No, it's just really interesting, because I don't think people, like when it comes to like, we see these like plastic surgery or like, you know, these horror stories when it comes to like someone's face completely changing at a certain age. It's because like they decide to do it all at once. Whereas what you said before, like tiny tweaks over time is, I think, the key here.
Yeah, and I think that more people are talking about that and advocating for that. There's a lot of talk about like prejuvenation too, and
Wait, what's prejuvenation?
Prejuvenation is like the early facelift, like the young facelift, you know, late 30s, early 40s, or preventative Botox and stuff like that. And I think it really just comes down to the person, you know, like you don't need to do anything because like it's what other people are doing, and you don't need to do something out of like fear that something is going to happen down the road. Like, I don't know. I think it's so personal for each person.
How did you start kind of figuring out the things that you wanted to do? Like, you know what I mean? So that you weren't doing everything all at once, and like, I guess the right order of things. And how did you kind of figure out your team of like different like surgeons and nurse practitioners and stuff to keep around you to like help you make those decisions?
So really it started with a nose job. Like I always wanted my nose done my whole life. I remember begging for it when I was like 13 or 14. Like, thank God my parents didn't let me. And when I got sober, I was like, man, I want to do that. But I was like, I'm going to give it a few years, you know, and see if this is something that goes away, because a lot of emotions come up in early sobriety and you can feel like you want to do something, and really it's just putting a Band-Aid on something that you're feeling. I really wanted to be cautious. So finally I was like, no, I really want to do it. And I went to a surgeon here in Beverly Hills, Ben Talley. I don't think he does noses anymore. And through him, I met Jen Hollander, the nurse practitioner there. She does my Botox. I just saw her this morning. And that was what I did. I did something else with him. I think I did a brow lift with him a few years after that. And then I was introduced to this doctor that I go to in Florida, who is known for its lip lifts, and I did that with him in January 2020. And then since then, like, he and I became really good friends, and we'll talk about things. Sometimes I'll be like, you know, my eyes are like bothering me. I feel like, you know, the lids are heavy and I feel like I look tired or whatever, and he'll be like, oh, well, we can do this or this. Same thing with the fat transfer. You know, I was like, I don't know, my face, like, it looks weird, like I feel like I'm really flat, and he's like, we can do fat transfer. So I think it's important to find somebody who shares your aesthetic, because any surgeon, I feel like surgeons are kind of like designers.
Yes, I agree.
In that they're going to listen to you about what you want, but ultimately they're going to do it in their style. And I was just lucky to find somebody who, like, we have the same aesthetic, we had the same vision, and so I'm just like, okay, I'm with you. We're on this journey. And like every couple of years, if there's like a little thing that we can improve, we're like, I'm gonna not necessarily look younger, because I'm not trying to like look like I'm 18 here, but look refined.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something, like, I was just with Jen doing my Botox this morning, talking about a friend of mine who had some things done around her eyes, and she's stunning. She's always been stunning, and looking at her, you would never know that she needed to do anything, and looking at her now, you would never know she did anything. She just looks more refreshed and refined, and that's like the goal, you know.
I definitely agree. I mean, that's like the gold standard, really.
Yeah, like work where you can't tell that anything was done.
Yeah, exactly. What are your must do skincare specific or like skin specific procedures that you like, you've loved, and you also recommend?
I mean, skincare is number one.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if that counts as one. But you know, you can do all the procedures that are out there, but like if you're not taking care of your skin, it's only gonna look so good. So I'm very into my skincare routine. And recently I've been doing facial massage, like
to yourself
changer. No, I go to this place, Kosha Spa.
Okay.
It's in, I think it's technically Studio City. You have to go.
It's called Kosha.
Kosha, Kosha.
Like literally making a note.
It is
at this moment.
So I went 2 Fridays ago. I go like once a month. And they do buccal massage. So, you know, they get inside your mouth. But I do last time I did the 2-hour custom face massage. And she's starting like with hair oil and just like scratching your head. And I'm like a glutton for all of this stuff. Like I could get a day-long massage and be happy. Like I would not. Same. Whereas like my husband is like, after an hour, like I'm out, like tapping
Nish is
out.
the same. He like has no patience for it. I'm like, what do you mean? This is the best thing ever.
I was like, wait, 2 hours is up. Like, can we do another 2? Like, we're not done yet. Yeah, she's like combing your hair back, and then she's like down like at the nape of your neck, just like scratching, and then doing like your chest and your shoulders, and then she works her way up to your face, and she's using gua sha and doing buccal massage and doing microcurrent, and then they have these like cold ball things and this mass. It's like heaven, and the room is dark. And she does a sound bath. And
wait, this sounds insane.
It's insane. I'm trying to remember how I even found out about it. I think the owner, Anastasia, she has a big following on Instagram. And so I think maybe I came across her page once, and I was like, what is this place? And I went, and I was like, how is this not like, how is not everybody talking about this? I mean, it's incredible.
I'm like almost considering cutting this part out because I want to gatekeep this. I'm not going to, but
there's a bunch of them there, so it's like not impossible to get an appointment. And they're like these little like massage angels, and it's so quiet, and it's just the most peaceful, calming experience. And I leave there, and like my face is plump, like my skin is plump and juicy. Everything's lifted, everything's drained. It's like, I mean, I don't want to compare it to like a facelift, but it's kind of like as close to a facelift, I think, as you can get through like massage and sculpting. It's bananas. And yeah, and it's something that I do like at least once a month. So that's like my little secret.
Okay.
Not so secret.
Well, no. I mean, you'll see me in there too.
Yeah.
I'll be coming in for the next
go.
appointment. Yes, please.
We should go. It is
when
like,
you're back from
it's
New
the
York.
best. Yeah, and there's like good little cafes nearby. Like it's cute for like a girl's day.
Okay,
for sure.
I love this idea. What other procedures that you like do you feel like are game changers? Like, is Fraxel up there for you? What do you recommend?
For me, yeah, Fraxel is a big one for me. Let's see, facial massage, Fraxel. They also do a facial at the facial massage place. But I do like getting a facial if I'm having some sort of skin thing going on, or like if I'm traveling and my skin is freaking out. But I keep it really simple. Like the skincare is probably 85% to 90% of my maintenance. And then I'll do things like the massage. I'll do laser usually in the winter just to like eradicate anything that may have cropped up every year that I age, and some of that sun damage and sun exposure accumulates. And then like Botox every, I don't know, couple times a year. That can definitely help with like the glass forehead. Yeah. Like you were saying.
It looks insane.
But that's pretty much it. Like I don't have a very intricate, complex
and skincare must-haves, because this is an audience question. Like many people ask this, in fact.
Skincare must-haves are my Jan Marini system. Like I am not a paid shill for Jan Marini, but it changed my skin so much, and it was shocking to me because there's so many actives. And last year I got acne out of nowhere last summer. Cystic acne, like around my jaw, my neck.
Wait, why?
It was crazy. I don't know. I think maybe it had to do with stress. I was going through a difficult time, a lot of changes. I was having some gut issues. I had a surgery. Like, so I think it was just a lot of things maybe that accumulated, and my skin was freaking out. But I tried all of the internal things, you know, but it was just so disheartening. Like I'd never struggled with acne before, and I just have so much empathy for anybody who struggles with their skin, because like there were days when I didn't want to leave the house because I was so uncomfortable and I felt like it was so out of my control. I was trying everything. I was like, I don't understand. Like I eat well, I exercise, I meditate, I sleep, 8 to 9 hours a night. Like I am not eating dairy. I'm not doing the things that you might think would cause
flare-ups. Yeah.
An acne flare-up. It was so hard. So anyway, long story short, I went to Candace, LA facialist, and she put me on Jan Marini, and I was like, this is crazy. Like so many actives, glycolic, like so many acids a night, vitamin C morning and night. At the time, my skin was so sensitive. Like all I was doing was cleanser. Which was probably part of the problem, but I couldn't tolerate anything. Anyway, long story short, it like totally changed my skin. I did go on spironolactone too at that time, which I think helped with, the hormonal stuff. I think that was part of it, but spironolactone didn't change the quality and the texture of my skin and everything. And this Jan Marini system really, truly did. Like, I feel like it took 5 years off my skin.
Wait, what's in the system? Like what products?
So, okay, I'll go through my whole routine.
Yeah.
So I do Elemis cleansing balm. That's one.
It's really good.
Really good. Really gentle for just removing makeup, sunscreen, all of that. Then I do the Jan Marini bioglycolic cleanser. It's a glycolic acid cleanser. Every day I do this. I mean, last summer it would have like burned my face off, I would have thought, but no, it keeps it really exfoliated. And it just helps to, I think, allow the other ingredients to penetrate in the rest of the product. So I do the glycolic cleanser. Then I do DMK, Melanotech drops. Those helped to like heal all of the acne marks. Really, really good for pigmentation, acne, scars, things like that. Then I do the vitamin C, Jan Marini. Then I do, she has something called BioClear lotion. It's azelaic acid, mandelic acid, and another kind of acid.
This is nighttime or?
Both,
okay.
Morning and night. Then I do a hyaluronic acid serum. Then I do a serum for redness. And then in the morning, I do her transformation cream moisturizer and then SPF. And then at night, there's like 2 other products that I add on at night. for adult acne. Yeah. So it's like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's totally changed my skin. So that's like,
I mean, your skin looks insane.
Thank you.
So whatever it is, we should all get on it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I could probably tolerate something else now, but I'm like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, I love it. I like the smell. I like the feel. Yeah. I like the ritual. You know, it's like just become part of my routine.
Yeah, I think with skincare, once you find something that works and like it's really working, my whole thing is I'm going to use it until it doesn't work anymore, because I've noticed that with products where like I use something for however long and then maybe it stops working, and then I'm like, okay, it's time to change things up because whatever it is just isn't working anymore. Don't ask me why that happens, but I've noticed it several times and I've had to switch skincare routines because of that. But now I'm like, when I find something that works, I am sticking to this.
That's how I used to be. I used to feel like I would have to throw different things, like throw my skin a curveball, because if I was using the same products, it would start to, I don't know, become desensitized to it or something, where it just didn't seem like it was effective and my skin would be dull. And so I'd be like, all right, curveball time. I'm going to do this. And my skin would respond. Yeah. But this I've been doing consistently for like almost a year now. And it's only gotten better. Gotten better. Even in like the last few months, I'm like, what is happening? I don't know. It's like made it thicker. Just a lot of
damn. Okay, benefits. So I'm gonna take notes when I re-listen to this and like literally purchase every single thing.
She has a mask. It's called Skinzyme mask. It literally gives you like glass skin, and I think I shared about it maybe on TikTok, and everybody commented, oh my god, yes, like for me too. So it's not just my skin. It's amazing. She's kind of like this like hidden gem. I feel like not that many people know about Jan Marini. Like they sell it at certain doctors' offices and, you know, med spas and stuff like that, but bananas.
Yeah, it's, I mean, yeah, you have great skin, so it makes sense. Another audience question is your favorite facial place in both New York and in LA.
Okay, well, LA is tied between Kosha and LA Facialist. I love Candace, like, and that's more for like skincare. Yeah. Whereas Kosha is more like we're lifting.
Structure.
Yes, exactly. Structure. New York. God, I haven't gotten a facial in New York in years. I think last time I got one there, it was at Barbara Sturm, maybe right when she opened. But I know. Have you had Dana Omari on your show?
IG Famous?
Noi Skincare?
No.
There's two. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's...
yeah, maybe it's Dana. I think it's spelled the same way. Yeah. She owns a place in New York called Noi Skincare. She came on my podcast. She is also like a little skincare angel. She has incredible products as well on her site. She has a place in New York that I'm dying to go to that I haven't been to yet, but I know a lot of people go and love it.
Okay, so maybe that we put that on our list for New York.
I was just going to say... maybe I should book for next week when I'm there.
Yeah, truly. I mean, you may as well. You're going down there. Be our guinea pig. What surgery would you do next? This is another audience question.
I don't know. I feel like after my boobs, I was like, I'm done.
We're done for a while.
I don't know possibly what else I would do. That was like a big game changer for me too.
Yeah, your boobs broke the internet.
We did opposite things, but I felt like you, and I remember you and I went for a walk after you did yours and before I was doing mine. And you were telling me like how big of a game changer it was for you. And I was like, yeah, like I never really cared about my boobs. I'm just doing it like mainly because I want the lift. And then same thing, like changed my life. I was like, I mean, I was confident, I was happy, everything before, like you were saying in the beginning of the episode, it didn't like change who I am or how I feel internally, but it was for sure
like your
this confidence that I didn't know I was like lacking almost.
No, it like changed everything. Like you can go around like perky tits, like, no bra. It's the best thing ever.
It's the best. Yeah. And I get so much criticism for it. I don't know if you have for yours. Maybe not, because yours was different. You know, mine was more like aesthetic versus functional.
Okay, but let's be real. I also got like a lift and a fat transfer, because if I'm going in, I may as well do the whole gamut. Okay?
Yeah, and I did a lift too. Like I had you know, small. I think like my metabolism, my genetics are just such that things, I'm pointing to my head and now my boobs, like things were just deflating. And I'm like thin and I have a fast metabolism, and it's like good, but also I think because of that, you know, I just was like lacking volume that I used to have when I was younger. So I did a lift as well, and it was like, I mean, just, I can't say enough good things. Like I love them. It's so much.
Yeah, I feel you. I know we did opposite, but like truly love. Okay, so the last question is another audience question, and it's about laser. So a lot of people asked about laser. Is it, I don't know if it's Fraxel specific that they're asking about laser, but is there another laser that you do?
Yeah, so the ones that I listed before, like BBL. Mm-hmm. So BBL, it stands for...
Not Brazilian butt lift, not to be confused.
No, I'm just like, oh God, I'm going to like say the wrong thing and people are going to come for me. Broadband laser or broadband light, one of those. And I don't even know. I don't know what broadband is. Sorry, everybody. But I did that one for like darker pigmentation, like darker, like sun kind of freckly stuff. And then I did Fraxel over it as like the magic eraser for the lighter pigmentation. So that was how it was explained to me. But there's like ablative laser, non-ablative. So ablative is where it like kind of damages the outer layer of skin and then it regenerates. That's how you get the result, that healing. And then non-ablative is like kind of, I think, like ultrasound laser. So you can do like an ultrasound for tightening where it's not like radio frequency. That's another kind of laser, you know, the Morpheus and everything that people are talking about, which I don't love personally. I think radio frequency is kind of being overused, especially in really young people. And like I did it twice. I did a really strong one. I did Profound, and it caused more harm than good in me because it like kind of damaged that layer of fat that keeps us youthful in our face. I think that was part of why I needed the fat transfer. So yes, there's tons of different lasers. Fraxel, BBL. I'm sorry, IPL. I did it again. I did it again, everyone. IPL, intense pulse laser. That's the one I did for the darker pigmentation.
Got it. Okay.
So there's so many, I get them all confused too.
Yeah, I mean, also, let's be real, you're not a plastic surgeon consultant yet.
No. The surgery part I could do. The laser stuff,
not
my forte.
Laser consultant.
Not a laser consultant yet. No.
Okay, Arielle, this has been amazing. Tell everyone where they can find you.
They can find me on my Instagram at Arielle Lorre, and then from there they can find everything else. My TikTok, where I have all the fun. My podcast, the Blonde Files podcast. My website, still have one of those, ariellelorre.com. My threads, I mean, my Pinterest, everything.
Love it. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.